the game can see the boxing voice.
Welcome back, gang, for the first time and hopefully many more to come. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click on the notifications right here, this little bell, so you can get those emails every time we go live.
This is Akin, aka Jack is the Truth, with the Boxing Voice. I'm here at the Ted Cheeseman final press conference with the hardest working man in boxing, Mr. Eddie Hearn. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm going to clap in about 10 minutes, so far away.
Eddie, you've been from New York to Liverpool to Philly to LA and now here in London. So it's no surprise when we look at Matchroom and see the success that they're starting to make and the inroads into America. How proud of you of what Matchroom has achieved, given the obstacles that were put in front of you when you first embarked on the venture into the US market?
I don't really look at it like that yet. I'm probably quite critical of myself and the company all the time. So I don't think we ever get in a position where we think we've cracked it. I think that's one of our strengths. You know, we never sit back and say, oh, yeah, we're top of the pile, we're doing this, we're doing that. So, and I think right now there's such a big movement to try and stop our progression in the States particularly, that turns me on, to be quite honest with you, and that makes me want to even work even harder. So we're only just scratching the surface in the States. It's really pleasing, the fighters that we're signing, the fights that we're putting together now, and we're getting great momentum. So there's still a long way to go, but you know, we're not going to stop, and we'll continue to work as hard as we can to try and make it happen.
We saw you walk into the LA Wildcard gym and try and make fights with Benavidez for Callum Smith. And we also saw a clash between our very own Ness, the Gibbs, and yourself within Philly. Do you think that the fans respond, based on the views that those videos have got, that the fans respond to how much you avail yourself to the press and how willing you are to take the difficult questions?
Yeah, I think that's it's good and bad. I think I'm probably a little bit too honest. I think I'll probably divulge a little bit too much information, and you know, that can get you in trouble. But isn't that the whole idea of all these interviews, to give the fans the access that sometimes they don't get? With Nesta, I just said to Nesta, you know, you can't criticise me. I was referring to an interview he gave when he sort of said, you know, Danny Jacobs was fighting Sulecki in his second fight with us, and he said, you know, what have you done for Danny Jacobs? You know, he's fighting Sulecki, he should have stayed with the PBC, blah, blah, blah. And I just pointed out to him yesterday that after that fight, he fought Derevenchenko, and now he's fighting Canelo for 8 figures. So at least turn around and go, wow, you've done a great job for Danny Jacobs. And, you know, word of mouth is probably the best example you can get when you're trying to sign another fighter, because you can't expect someone like Heyman or Top Rank or Showtime or Espinoza to give a balanced opinion on whether Matchroom or DAZN are right for you. Speak to the fighters. You know, speak to Daniel Jacobs, speak to Anthony Joshua, speak to Alexander Usyk, speak to Demetrius Andrade, speak to Maurice Hooker, and see how they're being treated. See if they're enjoying their move. And the answer will be yes. So, you know, again, we've got a long, long way to go, but I feel as though right now we've got great momentum.
So back to the UK for a second. Ted Cheeseman is stepping up to fight for the European title against Garcia. 15 fights in, Matchroom are really delivering for their fighters. What do you think about Ted Cheeseman and what he's achieved thus far?
Well, I think this is a great fight, and I think it's a massive step up. And I think as you see the older generation moving away from the sport, George Groves, another one who retired this week, David Hay, Tony Bellew more recently, these kind of fighters, Cheeseman, Fowler, Josh Kelly, Joshua Buatsi, Akali, Cordina, they're going to get the opportunity to step up and headline these shows in big arenas. Let's see how they perform. From my point of view, let's see how many bums on seats we get in the arena. Let's see how the TV ratings go. Let's see how the social views go. Let's see how exciting the performance is. And from there, you keep going. And, you know, the ultimate aim is to go on and fill these arenas in world championship fights. And some are going to make it, some aren't. But if you don't give them this platform on the way through, once they get there, they won't be big enough to take advantage of that commercially. So, and we always know Ted Cheeseman's in great fights. But, you know, we're going to have about 5,000 in there on Saturday, which I'm pleased with, because you know, it's not a monster show, but he's bringing a lot of support from Bermondsey, and I think people are getting behind British boxing, which is great.
Anthony Fowler is another person who has a fledgling career, and there's a lot of clamour to see these two young fighters come together. Do you think we're too impatient in the UK, where we want two people on a trajectory for achieving something significant in the sport clash so early, considering people like Isaac Chamberlain and O'Hara Davis have tested their mettle and find it hard to rebuild?
Well, fans are always impatient. That's their job. You're never going to hear a fan say, no, don't make that now. Give it a chance to grow and become bigger and bigger. That's not what a fan wants. They want to see the biggest fights now. They don't care about what's next for the fighter, or if a fighter can derail and have to rebuild his career. They just want to see the best fights, and they want to see the biggest fights now. So Fowler, if he beats Fitzgerald, that's not a foregone conclusion. And Cheeseman, if he beats Garcia, that's not a foregone conclusion. Is a really big domestic fight. But let them see him come through these tests first, and then we can start talking about that.
Okay, let's move next to the heavyweights. I'm sure everyone's... before I move on to the heavyweights, Lawrence Akali is also on this bill. He's had his own pay-per-view. He's headlined shows. Why is it so difficult to match him?
Because he's tall, he's gangly, he's awkward, and he punches very hard. So there's a couple of reasons there. He's got so much to learn, yet he's in a position where he's top 10 in the world. He's British champion, he's won the Commonwealth, he's won the WBA International, but he's still got a lot to learn, and trying to get him matched is a nightmare, to be honest with you. So Saturday I want him to go in and work on all the things that he's been working on and show the improvements that he's made. And I can see him fighting for a world title in 2019. He's always been a guy that's moved quick in everything that he's done, from the amateurs to the pros.
Okay, like I said, moving on to the heavyweights. Dillian White, prior to what he considered the derisory offer, it wasn't really common knowledge that he was on a fight-to-fight basis. Mm-hmm. Do you think that he let that information slip as a negotiation tactic so that he can flirt with other promoters in order for you to up the offer with regards to Anthony Joshua?
Probably. But, it's a common knowledge. Some fighters I have a contract with, some fighters I go fight by fight. I'm not really... If you want to leave, you can leave. If you don't think I've done a great job, then... we're going to go our separate ways. I think that part of him was flirting around. We had a meeting on Monday, expressed his position with Matchroom and Sky. He's gone from small hall shows to headlining pay-per-view. And that's, we can't take full credit for that. He's the one that's gone out there and done the fighting. So I think he's just, we've just got different opinions. Not just me and him, but him and AJ in terms of what his value in that fight is. He has massive value in the fight, but not, in our opinion, the same kind of value as a Wilder or Fury yet. But, if he continues to win and take these chances, that stock will continue to rise. So I respect Dillian for backing himself, but at the same time, I want to see him take that opportunity to try and become unified world heavyweight champion.
I mentioned at the beginning of this interview that you've made inroads into the US markets, and as a result of that, the notoriety of your fighters has grown as well. But you mentioned on every interview that AJ's profile needs to be built in America. Big Baby Miller, is he the sort of fighter that Anthony Joshua should take a risk on, considering the way he fights? He's a pressure fighter, he throws a lot of punches, he hasn't got concussive power, but he doesn't get dropped either. If Anthony Joshua doesn't find a way to knock him out, it's left to the subjection of the judges. Is everything that Anthony Joshua's built in the UK worth risking to fight an opponent on the level of unknown, Big Baby Miller?
That is, I think unknown is a good word, because we know he's a quality heavyweight, but he might be really good, and he might have an unbelievable chin. And if he has got an unbelievable chin, it's a real hard night work for AJ, because what Jarrell does have is a great tank, a great engine. He's incredibly fit. He throws a lot of punches. And if you don't get him out there in 6 or 7 rounds, it's not going to be easy. But if you are going to go to America commercially, Big Baby Miller is the perfect guy. They've already had a little bit of beef before. He's a great talker. He's from New York. He's got a great story. So, all these fights are risks. Look at Povetkin. AJ still don't get the credit for fighting Povetkin. No one else wants to fight Povetkin. Look at when he fought Klitschko. It was his 19th fight. He boxed Vladimir Klitschko. He boxed Brazil in his 17th fight. Boxed Dillian White in his 15th fight. So AJ's not afraid to fight any of these guys, but I do think it's a tougher fight than people think. But it should be. It's for the world heavyweight title.
So you think it is worth risk then?
I just think you've got to fight someone. They're all risky, aren't they? Every heavyweight fight that you're in is a risk. But I think if you're going to go to America, this is the right guy to do it against.
Okay. In your opinion, last time I asked you this, who do you think is the most likely to be delivered over the line between the three? Fury, because I'm presuming that that's not off the table yet. White or Big Baby Miller?
I think it's between Dillian and Miller, but anything can change. Tyson Fury can phone me this afternoon and make the fight. But we've offered him the same split that Wilder and him have been made at 60-40, and he doesn't want to know. I think that should tell you everything about people's plans to fight Anthony Joshua. I think there's massive collusion right now between the heavyweights and managers and promoters to try and stop the progress of Anthony Joshua. I think it's flattering.
Okay, that's everything I have. But Nesta Gibbs did want me to ask you a question. He said, why are you ducking the work on his podcast? He's been inviting you on the podcast. When are you going to come on again? And why are you ducking his text?
I don't know. I didn't even know I was invited. But I did. As soon as I got to Philadelphia, he was the first person that I spoke to. But the thing is with Nesta, sometimes he has to say, Eddie, you are the fucking king. I'm sorry. But once he learns to do that, we'll do more business.
Eddie Hearn, I appreciate you talking to the Boxing Voice. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Family, yes, YouTube has been cutting funding to their channels as of late, and with net neutrality going through its process, the internet is changing. If you want to keep your favorite channel intact, coming up with tons of content, and plus get hours and hours of extra content, head over to patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice to become a member of the TBV family and help support the channel. Peace.